Okay, good evening my dear students. Now this video is all about what is the preparation strategy for May 2025 in relation to our GST. If you wrote well in January 2025, well and good. If you wrote only group 1 and it was very good, then please focus on group 2. And unfortunately, if at all you are not thoroughly prepared due to whatever the reason it is, and you want to start your preparation again now, in those cases, this video will be 100% helpful to you. That's why I just use the word focus 30. That means in order to get a minimum of 30, if you are thoroughly able to revise the concepts, what we are going to discuss in our video, definitely will get those marks. Okay, that's why I just put the name as Focus 30 here. So, the first chapter comes to GST in India and introduction part. With respect to GST in India and introduction, if you ask me before January 2025 attempt, definitely we can say please leave this particular chapter because its weightage is 0 to 2. But that 0 we assume generally, but whereas surprisingly in January 2025 attempt, a 2 marks question was asked from this particular chapter, GST and introduction part. So that's why with respect to this particular GST and introduction, you need to keep focus on constitutional aspects majorly, like article number 246A, article number 269A, and article number 279A. Okay, and these are the areas you need to read thoroughly. And along with that, another point you should remember is dual GST model. So another one you need to keep focus is dual GST model. And apart from that, after introduction of GST, still excise duty, CST, VAT like that are still there. If at all they are there, on which products they are there still, these are the important areas you need to keep focus. And majorly this particular chapter is of a theory chapter. So generally we will not expect 99% of the cases any problematic part from this particular area. Therefore, you need to keep focus on these areas, constitutional aspects like Article 246A, 269A, 279A and GST models, dual GST model, and after implementation of GST, whether excise duty, CST, VAT are still there or not. So these are the important areas you need to keep focus. So the next chapter we need to see is here supply under GST. This is more of a analytical, generally practical questions. That means problematic questions will not be asked from this particular chapter, but either analytical or practical question or a direct theory question can be asked in these areas. So based on that, what we can say, these are the important areas you need to keep focus. The first one is import of service, whether it is 7.1b or 7.1c. 7.1b or 7.1c, in both cases, import of service, you need to keep focus and you need to learn it very well, because the practical question can be posed from import of service, which is very important from the examination point of view. And another one is deemed supplies, that is 7.1c, rest of the points. And negative list of GST, that is 7 subsection 2. And along with that, whatever the circulars that are there, in relation to supply chapter, those circulars and any amendments that is going to be released by our ICAI, and whatever the problems or questions that will be given under MTP and RTP. So these are the areas you need to keep focus. Don't forget to read the circulars. That's why I wrote in the handwritten format. because circulars even posed actually as a question in the recent exams also, January 2025. So that's why keep more focus on circulars along with these important areas. Any amendments that are actually given by the ICAI in statutory updates, those areas also you need to prepare. The next chapter will be levy and collection of GST. It is called as charge of GST. And in that 9.3, which deals with RCM, reverse charge mechanism. With respect to reverse charge mechanism, almost some 16 points are there, but in that the most important areas you need to keep focus is with respect to RCM, that means in which cases recipient is liable to pay the GST. So GTA, legal services, services provided by the government, directors, it is important, sponsorship, author to the publisher, security services, printing of passenger vehicle, and along with that, whatever the recent amendments, plus amendments which are actually not asked in the exam, which are relating either to the previous two attempts, means one is January 2025 and second one is September 2024. So with respect to them, whatever the amendments that are there in this particular RCM, reverse charge mechanism 9.3, if at all they are not asked either in September 2024 or in January 2025, then please read those amendments also. Along with MTP and RTP is actually, it is a standard one, you need to read. Along with current amendments. Okay. So these are the important areas under 9.3 RCM you need to keep more focus on. And with respect to 9.5 ECO, with respect to 9.5 ECO, what are the cases where ECO is required to pay the GST? Regarding that particular point, you need to keep focus more on restaurant services and transportation of the passengers. These are the most important ones you need to keep focus. One is restaurant service, that means Zomato or Swiggy related ones, and passenger transportation like Ola, Uber. These are the two most important areas you need to keep focus under 9.5. And with respect to section 10, which deals with composition scheme, first you need to keep more focus on what are the sublimits for the services 10.1 and 10.2, that is in the preceding financial year turnover 10% or 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. Those areas you need to keep focus. And in the same way, can opt for composition scheme for 1 unit or not. That means if you are having 2 units, you need to keep focus on those areas. And what is the negative list of composition scheme? That means the persons who are not eligible. And in the same way, exit from composition scheme. That means what are the circumstances where you need to exit from composition scheme. So these are the important areas you need to keep focus with respect to your May 2025 attempt. Now comes to our exemptions. Generally from exemptions, the practical questions will be asked, but whereas in January 2025 they posed a theory question, but it is very rare to ask those type of direct theory questions. But if it all they ask also, we can do that. These are the important areas from exemptions you need to keep more focus on, like charitable and religious activities, agriculture related, education, legal services, health services, passenger transportation, goods transport, and interest related, and services provided by government or to government. Both are important. Provided by government or to government, and artist performance. These are the most important areas because exemptions is a vast area. So that's why these are the areas you need to read thoroughly, because the most probable questions can be asked from these areas. Okay. So these are the areas with respect to exemptions you need to remember very well. And the next chapter is time and value of supply. So with respect to time and value of supply, under time of supply, you need to keep focus on 12.2 FCM and 12.3 RCM with respect to goods, and 13.2 and 13.3, 13.2 FCM and 13.3 RCM with respect to services, and in the same way 12.4 or 13.4 vouchers. These are the important areas in time of supply ma. And with respect to value of supply, inclusions in value of supply and exclusions from value of supply and their circulars. Circulars which deals with secondary discount, like that will be there now. Those are the important areas you need to keep focus with respect to time and value of supply. And with respect to ITC, generally, which is the most important chapter, with respect to ITC, the important areas, because it is a vast chapter, so that's why you need to keep focus on these most important areas, like 16.2 conditions for availing the ITC, 16.4 what is the maximum time limit to claim the ITC, 17.5 blocked credits, and 18.1 claiming the ITC in special circumstances, like when you got the registration now, whether ITC is allowed or not, you shifted from composition scheme to normal scheme, whether ITC is allowed or not, those areas. 18.4 reversal of ITC in special circumstances, and 18.6 sale it as a second hand good, and if at all any theory is going to be asked, it can be asked from rule 86A and 86B. So these are the important areas with respect to ITC chapter you need to keep more focus. And with respect to registration, 22, 23, 22 persons liable for registration, 23 persons not liable for registration, 24 compulsory registration, rule number 10A which deals with the time limit to give the bank details, CTP, NRTP and UAN registrations when they are required, and section 29 and 30 revocation recent amendment is there. Apart from that, any amendments that are in relation to Aadhaar etc., those are the important areas you need to keep focus in registration chapter. And with respect to tax invoice, debit notes, credit notes and e-way bill, the most important areas you need to keep focus is HSN code, revised tax invoice, e-invoice, dynamic QR code, debit notes and credit notes, and delivery challan. And with respect to e-way bill, when e-way bill is required, when you are exempted from e-way bill, and who is required to generate the e-way bill, and who will prepare the part A and part B of e-way bill, and what is the validity period of e-way bill. So these are the points you need to keep focus in the case of e-way bill. And with respect to payment of tax, either theory question or the problematic question can be posed. With respect to theory question, these two areas you need to keep focus: electronic cash ledger and liability register. Any problem is going to come in this particular chapter, it will be from section 50 interest computation. That means wrongly availed and utilized ITC, how to do the interest computation, short payment is there, whether you are required to pay on the gross amount or on the net amount. These are the important areas you need to keep focus on payment of tax. And with respect to the next chapter, returns, the important areas will be GSTR 1, GSTR 3B, GSTR 5, GSTR 10 and GSTR 2A and GSTR 2B. What are the due dates for all these returns, and what is the due date for payment of taxes, and what is the late fee for these returns if at all they are belatedly filed. These are the important areas you need to keep focus on returns. And TDS and TCS, with respect to that, who is required to deduct the TDS and who are not required to deduct the TDS as well as TCS, and what are the returns you need to submit and what are the due dates of these two. These are the important areas in this particular chapter. And with respect to place of supply, the most important sections will be, you need to read entire section 10 along with the 12.3. 12.3 deals with immovable property, 12.6, 12.7 admission and to event and event management, 12.8 goods transportation, 9 passenger transportation, 10 conveyance, like that. These are the most important areas you need to keep focus on place of supply. And with respect to accounts and records, section 35, what are the records you need to maintain and for how much period the books of accounts are needed to be retained. So these are the important areas you need to read with respect to our GST while preparing for May 2025 attempt. Thank you.